right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for coming. We appreciate it. As I've already said out there on the microphone that I was not emotionally ready to talk into today. My name is Scott. I am a senior sales engineer at Gold Leaf Print and Packaging out in Pelham. And this is the wonderful Mr. Derrick Helms. Are you the founder of Sparkhound?
No, managing partner. So.
Managing partner at Sparkhound. All kind of custom AI software builds. Best in the business. Let's see, we up and running here?
Yep. You ready for me to go?
And you just put, well, how about over to the next one real quick so I can knock out this administrative stuff. That is my house that you just saw a picture of. I live on a cliff face. We want to thank you to our title sponsors, Link, and our featured monthly sponsor, Keesus.
Couldn't be here without them. They paid for the food, so give them a round of applause there.
We're going to tell you guys some more about that. They got These are our other title sponsors. So we have a nice event from UAB that I'm going to touch on real quick in just a minute. So this is our AI in Action Business Summit that we are putting on, actually that UAB is putting on. We're just helping a little bit. So we've got these wonderful speakers that you've seen right up here. Unfortunately, the DOD guy had to take a step back, so we have a new speaker in here, Mr. Shakshev Narang. He's a bioscientist. He's a good guy. So Friday, April the 10th, it's going to be an all-day event, but it's going to be packed. It's a real practical summit on how to use AI and how companies in town are actually using it. What's really happening in Birmingham? We're at the point now that it's not theoretical anymore. We're not just hearing about it on podcasts. It's not just the dirty word floating around the office. Okay, we're at the point now that you're using it or you're behind. But you don't have to stay behind, okay? If you want to get back on board and get back ahead, you can start right now. That's the great thing I think about this whole weird movement that we are in, is that if you start today, you can get caught back up with anybody. Are you going to be a front-end, super high-end developer? No. I can't even color inside the lines, but I still use Claude Code to build out almost an entire RevOps department. So this is going to include programming, lunch, networking, and real hands-on learning at the end of the day. So I mentioned Kesus before. We are actually going to have a live build seminar with Kesus. They're going to be building real-time solutions to your company's problems at the event, right in front of you, so you can see what it takes to go from ideation to design to implementation, all in the span of one workshop, which essentially is also what we're doing here today, because you're doing meeting notes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Derrick is going to cover, sorry to take the wind out of your sails.
Yeah, man, come on.
But he's going to cover how to take your meeting notes, the things that we all hate to do, but are arguably one of the most important pieces of the sales cycle. You have to remember what clients are talking about. That's how you really get to the problem that is important to them that your product can solve. Okay? Because remember, it's always about the client. It's about the customer. It's about finding their problem, what's important to them. Then you give them the solution. Okay? And one of the best places to get that knowledge and that data is from the conversations that we are having. We can scrape emails. We can scrape websites. We can send all kind of show you me, you know me messages, every kind of cold outreach, warm outreach, shaking hands. But the human connection is what separates sales from every other part of your organization, except maybe HR, but we don't want to go there. Mm-hmm. So that human connection, having those conversations and being able to take those conversations in minutes and turn them into real actionable things that you can use, that is probably the greatest first starting point that you can use AI in sales. So without any further ado, I know you're all tired of hearing me talk. This is Mr. Derrick Helms, everyone.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Good to meet everybody. Thank you for the intro, Scott. Y'all can hear me back there okay? All right, I'm going to talk loud. I don't want to use the mic. It's going to be hard to do that and demo the stuff I want to demo today. We cover the mission out there, but again, this is our group as a community, as sellers in this, around Birmingham or the state of Alabama. This is, again, the intent here is for us to share knowledge, get better at what we're doing, and every month we look to everybody's feedback in this room to get better, what we're doing, how we're doing. I'll talk about that, give you some places to actually give us some feedback on what you'd like to learn in addition to what we're going to show today. But again, we all get better together here. I know some of your competitors may be in here, maybe they're not, but at the end of the day, what we're showing here is just how to become better sellers, communicators, and at the end of the day, go drive some revenue, right? That's what we're in the business to do. So today, we'll talk about using AI for speed to close. Last quarter, anyway, I need to introduce myself again. Derrick Helms. So I'm managing partner at Sparkhound. I've been in the IT space here in Birmingham for almost 27 years. I was worked for a FIS, SunGard, if anybody's familiar with those guys in the banking industry. Did that for a long time until they sold out, and then I've been more on the consulting side ever since for about the last 12 years. So now I'm more in the tech space, even though I'm a seller. We do a lot of these implementations for businesses, right? So that's a little bit about me. LinkedIn there, I'll post that later too. So if you have questions, again, my goal here is to just give you information. Don't hesitate to reach out, direct message me, ask me things after this is over. Even if I am competing with you, we'll still have a good conversation, right? So where we left off, how many, show hands, who was here last month? Oh, a lot of new crowd. Okay. Who's using AI in practice today for something? You're generating, all right, leave those up if you're just using it for generating emails, proofing things. All right. Are we using it to research clients? Okay. Using to build content like slide decks, that kind of stuff. Okay. Anybody use Gamma? No, got a couple. All right, we're going to show that today. Anybody use Claude? Handful. ChatGPT? Copilot? Microsoft Copilot? Okay, cool. Well, got a good room. So today we're going to kind of go one step further in the sales cycle. Last month we talked about research, outreach, how to go, scrub for information on our clients for kind of cold prospecting, right? To be more creative than just, we all know that the general email outreach it didn't land in like it used to, right? So we have to be a lot more creative. So if you haven't seen that, that's out there. You can go watch that to kind of catch up. But today, my goal is to kind of move the step further in the funnel in that we've had a conversation. Now, what do we do with that? What do we take those meeting notes and become, actionable? How do we take it to a next step? Sound good? Sound good? Okay. Again, let's see. So bottlenecks typically for us and all my sales organizations that I've run over the years, man, I wish this would have came along a long time ago, but it's typically, if you're doing custom builds, for instance, whether you're in, customization for manufacturing or you're building products like up that's software driven, there's always, this conversational piece where me as a seller's engaged, I've got them to the table, I've got an engineer with me, they're taking notes, I'm taking notes, we're all trying to collaborate on, okay, what are we actually going to build and or sell this client? That process back then especially could take days, right? If not over a week to come up with a proposal based on one meeting we had, just so that we could turn around and give some type of level of effort or something like that to get them on the hook to buy something, right? Well, that's drastically changed with the tooling and what we're able to do now with AI. So my goal today is I'm going to walk you through how to take that, draft a statement of work, level of effort, depending on what business line you're in, and how do I shorten that window from what used to be a week process, and in some cases I can do it now in an hour, whatever, as long as I got good input from my engineers. How many in here are selling like just product-based material, just kind of building material stuff? Okay, custom solutions, whether you're in technology, SaaS applications, anybody in here doing that kind of stuff? Custom builds? Okay. Give me something I missed. What's the other majority of the room in here doing? I just want to know so I can highlight it. Anybody have missed outside of product sales or custom solutions? Nobody want to talk about it? What's that? Yeah, there you go. Okay. Anybody else? Energy infrastructure. Okay, cool. Real estate? Yep. All right. What's that? Okay, yep. All right. Well, good news is we're doing my work today. So no, I'm just kidding. But it's, the idea here is just to show you the practical practice of how you could take what I'm doing, and I'm sure you're going to relate it to, in my world, I do this thing, right? So when you got a room this big, we can't cover all industries. So we try to pick something that's kind of generic that I can walk you through some steps we use. And even if you don't use all 5 components, I'm going to assume you're going to get 3 or 5 of these that's like, yep, I could plug that into my process today. Make sense? Okay, and I'm not going to read these things off. I like to just shoot from the hip. But again, the idea here is in our old workflow, again, it took a long time. The proposal process was the bottleneck for us in our organization, and even when I did prior to this organization. That was always the slowest point. And we know speed kills all deals. We've all heard all those sayings, right? It's all about, hey, how can I turn that around as fast as possible so I'm on to the next stage of my sales cycle where I can start predicting when's this thing going to close, when's these going to happen. I'm having real dollar conversations versus this waiting in the ether until I can have my next conversation, right? But the new way in our world is I'm taking those notes and information I'm gathering, whether it's a Teams recording or whatever, and I'm ingesting that into an AI engine. And in this case today, we'll do that in Claude. And I allow that by giving it some prompting to take that and use my templates to draft me a first rough cut LOE. In our world, that's a level of effort, or SOW for those that do that, or your building materials, whichever you call it, that's getting you to that first pass, right? And the idea here when you're using these tools is it's never 100%. But if it gets you 80%, in the first pass, that's saved you, tons of time. So always look at it that way. And as you work with it, you will get a lot closer. I feel like today we're getting kind of close to that 95, 96%, and I've only got to alter about 4%. But that takes care and feed, and I'll kind of show you how you do that within your models to help do that stuff. Okay? And again, the idea is we've got it polished out the door and in the client's inbox within a short amount of time. So let's talk live demo. I'm going to jump over, and any questions before I get in a live demo? Our goal here today, again, like we talked about, is just show you tooling. What I'm using today is a product called Claude. You may have Microsoft Copilot, and that's the only thing your organization lets you use. You can still do the same things, it's just you do it a little different. Same with ChatGPT, same type of thing. So whatever notes you take today or you take home, you can ask whichever engine you're working with, how do I do that in this engine? And it'll help you talk you through it, okay? Make sure this comes up here. And please ask questions along the way. Again, this is for this community. It's not a cool look at this cool tool thing I did, but it's more I want to make sure you're learning something, okay? Make sure it's over here. All right. So again, if I think about, where I go out of a meeting, whether again I've recorded that in Zoom or I've recorded it in Teams, or I've just traditional face-to-face selling in a conference room, I've got my notepad, maybe I've got a pre-sales engineer or somebody with me and they've got their notepad, right? We have that conversation, we go back to the office, and the first thing we would want to do is take those notes and put them in a text file, Word doc, wherever you share your information, Google Docs, all that kind of stuff. My goal is always get that information centralized right when it comes out. Messy, don't care, because that's the good thing about AI. We don't care about formatting. We're going to feed it in there, let it do its thing, okay? So what I want to do here is, and I'm going to copy this so that I don't have to, just talk this out too long. But when I come out of that meeting, again, I've got messy notes, or I've got a recording or anything like that. And where I want to go is I'm going to tell Claude that, hey, here are my notes from a pre-sales discovery meeting. I'll paste this and we'll read it together. Because I want to make sure you understand what I'm putting in the prompt. Again, this is no different if you pasted this in ChatGPT, for those that use that, Copilot, whatever, right? I'm like, let me make sure it's showing on the stuff. All right, here's my notes from a pre-sales discovery call. I need to get a level of effort. That's, again, wording we use. You'll use whatever you've got. Estimate back to a client by Monday, and it's a Friday at 9 a.m., right? Can you extract this key information? These are our bullet points of what I'm doing out of this demo I'm showing you. You would have different ones based on your business, right? So that's what I'm going to give it. And then down here, I'm going to give it my sample meeting notes. You can tell, like, by just hitting enter, it's going to tell you where those at. You can upload a file, you can do whatever. Typically, I would just go ahead and paste that under there. I'd tell it what to do, and I'd give it my scratchy notes right off the bat. And here's one that it looks like, just so you can see how messy this is. And this is not a real company, so don't think I'm like sharing, sensitive information or anything. Sorry, it's a lot to copy. All right, and we'll read through this real quick too. So, oh yeah, it's not touchscreen, Derrick. These are just one-off notes from me and an engineer, right? It's just, hey, Lisa started the meeting, she was talking about this with their ERP system. Marcus made these highlights and these points. He was the other guy I talked with. I've highlighted who was in the meeting, right? Who Lisa is, who Marcus is, all that kind of stuff. Even said CFO came, but he joined late, 20 minutes late. Just, you know how chicken scratch is, right? You've worked with enough folks. Or if you're like me, I'm the worst, so I need this to organize my thoughts. But anyway, it's just a ramble on of notes within there of information and things we were hearing. Sometimes I'll get this, but I also get something a client hands me, or they've printed something, or they have a text file, or they've got emails or samples they give me. I put that in there too. Give it all the information you can get. If you're a materials person, feed it that material list they gave you. If you're trying to, get a bill of material, or you've got real estate listings, you've got all these different things, you're trying to organize that into a good estimate or somewhere to lead you, paste it all here, okay? So I've given it all this, and then I've called out action items, right? Like, hey, I need send capabilities deck by Friday, I need a rough cut for Lisa on Monday, and then schedule a deep dive for next Tuesday, and then, oh, by the way, I need to clear legal because this is a brand new client, so I need to go ahead and send an NDA or an MSA right away, right? So just steps you usually go through, but I'm just putting it on paper. And once you do this one time, like I'm pulling from a notepad, right? You build your process and you feed it every time you do this. By the fourth or fifth, you're not typing this. It's just you're putting in your notes and then you're pasting in, your process of what you want it to do. Any questions before I hit go here? No? Okay. All right. So I'm going to tell it to do some work here. If it takes it a minute, I may jump over and show you what file it produces. Yes, sir.
One question.
Yep.
I know you said this wasn't a real company. Is it a best practice, like, not to put in identifying information or anything like that?
Mm-hmm. Fun question. So if you're working with sensitive information, my answer is it's a tough one. So a lot of companies, the reason they'll have you in Copilot is because that's within your environment and they have safeguards there, that kind of stuff. So, that may be why they force you that way. My stance, this is a Derrick stance, not a law, not a, hey, I've read all the guidelines or anything out there. But if you've done any work with ChatGPT and, of course, all the fun news that Anthropic's been in lately with the government, when you go in and you set your profiles up in these, you always go and select do not train models with my information. That's step one. Always make sure you check that. Every one of them has a setting for that. Ensure you do that. Even if you're not working with sensitive information, I just recommend you do that, right? Because if you're working on your personal stuff, you don't want your kids' names out there, your name, whatever. So I always tell it, don't use my information to train the model. But my answer is also like, if you're kind of fearful for that. If one of those companies made the news that information leaked, you think they'd be in business by next Monday, it would be detrimental. So they have so much security safeguards on where they're storing data and how they're doing it. Will it happen? I don't know. So it's tough. Now, if you're a DoD seller in here, you probably don't want to go pasting that, especially in Anthropic right now when they're fighting with the CEO over that. Anybody know that story? It's been in the headlines. It's pretty crazy. OpenAI said, yeah, we're with you, and then signed a contract the next day. I was like, now that's a sales guy right there. So anyway, that answer your question though? Yeah. Okay. But as it built this, you can see it was going through my notes and my way of thinking, right? Just breaking out all those crazy unorganized notes. Now it's giving me, pulled information of, oh, their budget was $500K, and this is they got that from another competing partner of mine, Accenture, and so now I know what I'm up against or what I'm trying to compete to. So it's building those. It's giving me some scope signals. It identified some risk and things that it took out of my notes of like, hey, this you may want to look at these things. So that's again, it did that fast while we were talking. But now I'd say, yeah, I want you to go ahead and create me an actual LOE. So please create LOE. Another good thing is this thing, you can be about 50% right on spelling, you'll still do it. But while that's building, again, if it takes it too long, because the Wi-Fi is not too fast in here, but we'll see. It's usually like on our office, I'm going to get this back within a minute or two. And so we'll let it churn, and if it don't in a minute, I'll take that and move on. But what I want to show you here is how it takes those notes structured into our template that I've given it, which I should have done that. It already has it, but I'll show you this as a note. Like in my notepad here, while that's building that, I've given it this, file format strategy, all that kind of stuff. Like, hey, here's how I build my estimates. You can upload templates. You can give it a Word doc. You can reference anything you want to reference here, right? For this use case in this demo today, I gave it this kind of generic word format. And I'll show you why I did this in a minute when we moved to Gamma, and I take something that's just kind of a word vomit and I make it into a presentation in about a minute and a half. So that's where the real power of some of these tools kick in. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, right now. So the thing about Claude that's a little bit different than some of your other engines, and that's why a lot of people are gravitating this way, is it actually uses code to produce things. And that's where you heard him say something, I'm not a developer, but I use Claude because it builds things. And it does. It can, I can tell it to build me a, web page based on this, and it's going to go try to do it, And so what you see it doing in the background is it's churning, it's building this document using programming language. So, but again, you can do this in Copilot and use it to produce Word. The only thing with Copilot, if you use it, it's from the standpoint of it being really sleek and nice. They don't have that figured out yet. They're still working through that. It kind of just gives you a bunch of words. Anybody experience that in the Copilot world? That's using it. It's just not the most fun to look at. But again, that's where products like Gamma and other kick in that can really help you. All right, I'm going to skip on and we're just going to show you what this looks like. I was worried it may take it a little longer in here. Yes, sir.
In the state of Alabama, if you're on a call, like excluding like DOD or defense contractors, or sometimes we can't even bring our phones in there.
Mm-hmm.
Recording the meeting notes, audio to convert it to AI to text.
Mm-hmm.
Like the state of Alabama, do they have a stance on that?
Mm-hmm.
Ethics or legality of,
Mm-hmm.
potentially sign something, but
Yep.
I mean, I know people do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I would think the person would want to know they're being recorded.
Yep. Yep.
Conversation.
Yeah, it's definitely, you're supposed to, that's why, like if you're in teams and stuff, when you kick it, everybody has to accept that, yes, I'm being recorded. So it is a hard part. A lot of people have AI policies in their company. So if you don't know yours, you may or may not. It's very early on. Some companies do, some don't, where they're telling you like, hey, as a seller or anybody else, you've got to have approval to record a conversation, right? Because there's so many tools out there that I don't have to tell you I'm recording you. I can record it. I could have my whisper going right now and recording everything we're saying. And I don't, but I'm saying I could. Yes, sir.
So I've been using an AI tool for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
In Alabama, I checked with my attorney in Alabama, if you start a phone call in the state of Alabama, you don't have to disclose you're recording it.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of use that instead of using it against
Yeah.
somebody or share with anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I need to just take my meeting notes and say
Yep.
it a bunch of times, but I didn't check that with the Alabama attorney.
Yep.
Yeah, one party consents, so as long as you consent.
Yep. So there you go. There's an answer. I would go with that. Yeah.
But there are
Yeah.
more and more states now, though, are starting to require that if you record the call, then you have to put it out there. So even though we'll be the last domino to fall, eventually the domino will fall here too. But like he said, Teams, Zoom, a lot of them, they just automatically tell everybody. Now HubSpot will do it too.
Yep.
When you get on, so you don't really have to worry about it as much anymore. And honestly, like, this is kind of what everybody expects at this point. Like, even if we're not being recorded, Google's recording us, right?
Yep. How many people leave their sales call now and the client's like, hey, you send me that recording? I mean, everybody's so used to like, I don't want to use my notes. I like those notes better, right? So I know for us, it's like a struggle when we book a meeting. It's like, we want to shoot that Teams out first because we want the recording, because it's like, if the client does, he's like, God, I'm never getting that recording. And now I got to go do my chicken scratch, right? But I would, again, that's kind of a company, check with your group. Again, I would default if you only do business in Alabama, you got a good answer right there. But again, I think it's an expectation. Everybody kind of understands that because you want to be, especially in sales, our job is to be attentive, right? We have to understand your business problems or solutions you're trying to get to or what we're trying to put in front of you for you to acquire to help your business. So to me, I've not had anybody ever tell me not to, other than my DoD line of business. So anyway, it created this Word document, and it's a good looking Word document. You could send this right away, right? I could just book this, ship it. It's in my template, all that kind of stuff. I say mine. It's one I created for this demo. But, and it's got everything broke down just based off the chicken scratch I gave it, what template I used, the little bit of research and things that it added. It created that, and I think, we've been, with me running my mouth, we did that in about 15 minutes, right? So you could make a choice here in your line of work, whether again you're creating a first level estimate and you don't need a presentation layer. This may be where you off ramp and you're ready to proof this, make your little bit of changes, ship it. And if you're in that line of work, I mean, that happens very quick, right? For me and our organization, I have to typically, because I'm selling through multiple levels of an organization, right? So I've got like technical people I'm working with and certain folks that want the devil in the details, and then you got kind of the CEO and others that want to see that visual, like, hey, just give me the highlights. I don't know even what you're talking about, right? So that's why we typically produce the visual version of this, and then we have this to default back to, right? And then for us, once we present these, that our level of effort is our first pass, like, hey, we heard what you said, we understood it, here's our proposal of how we solve that problem. And then if they agree, we go to our T's and C's, SOW, and I use the same tooling for that, right? Like take my level of effort, use my standard master service agreement languages, create all this, and spit it out. And if you've done that or you're in that workflow today and you haven't been using AI, yeah, it's like, oh, it's not that hard, but you look up, it's like, that took me 45 minutes to an hour. I could have been talking to another client, So think about that if you do have that as a process. So we got this cool document. Yes, sir.
Using your template, does it come out same color, same content, same tables?
Yep. If you feed it your template, I didn't do it because I'm not here to promote my company. I'm just here to teach. But typically, it's going to have my color palette, my schemes, my logos, where every formatting goes. Like, hey, my assumptions go in this part. This goes up here. So you give it that template, and as you train it, it's better and better. You kind of talk to it, right? Like if I got this right now and I didn't like this first pass, I would actually use the LLM to change it. Meaning so that I could train it. I would say, hey, this looks good, but on section 3 here on optimization, I don't like the formatting. I think you should have, you really need to cover it this way because this is an important part of what they want to talk about. Please elaborate. And you talk to it and it'll go refactor this Word document again with that feedback you just gave it. And a lot of times, if you haven't used them a lot, they like to be thanked as well. So when it's a good document, it's like, hey, that was great. Good job. And that way they know they're on the right style for the next one you feed it. Yep.
Will it change the template when it does that?
What's that? Yes.
So
Yeah.
you said, hey, you weren't correct.
Yep.
Go back and change it.
Yeah. Well, it depends on if your template has it that way, it theoretically should come out that way. So it won't change your base template unless you tell it. Like, hey, because sometimes it surprised me on my template upload, but I liked what it produced better. And I'll say, go update my master template with what you just created. Because, it is a large language model, so you do get different things from time to time on how it's just presenting, because it's trying to get better, right? So, again, you just give it that feedback of, hey, good, that looks great. Actually, let's update my template with that. Yes, ma'am.
When you are making those little tweaks if you need to, how specific would you say you need to be?
It's on the models. Like Claude, to me, and I'm not here to sell Claude. I use all of them. You would not want to see my credit card bill when it comes to all the tools that I supply to. But, it is different for each one. Some of them take less prompting and it gives you this good output. Some, I would say be as detailed as you can be, right? And then see what you get back. Because it's, there's no point in kind of just, I'm going to give it a half sentence and then I got to give it another half. Like me, I'm more of take my thought process, think about it, give it 4 or 5 sentences, hit go, right? All right. So we got this document, we like it. Now we're ready to, I need a presentation format, as I mentioned. If I can find my mouse. I know I asked the room about Gamma. Again, I'm using this because it's been around for a little bit. If you haven't used it, there's other tools out there that do this, that create presentation decks. Another cool feature that Claude Anthropic just came out with is now they have a Claude that rides in Microsoft PowerPoint and Excel. They just released those plugins. So the deck that I'm actually using in our standard format that I kicked off, that I actually created that with Claude's input into PowerPoint. I didn't come here to Gamma to pretty it up or any of that thing. So it's just different, right? It's another way. If you like what it's producing, I wouldn't pay for a subscription like this if you're already using Claude. They're the only ones right now that has that kind of plug-in in PowerPoint and Excel. And if you're as a salesperson, if you do a lot of your estimating and quoting and kind of margins and, that kind of stuff in Excel, that plugin's very nice. Of just pivot tables, everything. You highlight it, give it a prompt, and it'll go build it. You can give it markdowns and margins and how I float this, and it responds very well. This one out here, this was me demoing, but I'm not going to show it this because I want you to kind of see the power of this. Raise of hand if you've seen it. I couldn't remember how many we had. If you've used Gamma. Okay, so cool. We ought to get some, cool. Yeah, all right. Ooh, there we go. Ooh, yeah, create with AI. So with Gamma, if you say that I just went through that and I had a conversation with ChatGPT or Copilot, and I just got the information I wanted, right? Like I'm doing a research on the client. Like I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to, impress them with just some information, and I'm early in the sales cycle, I'm not even into pricing. A lot of times I'll do my research in whether it's Claude or ChatGPT, get my thoughts together, and then I'll come here to create a presentation layer as a first pass before I ever get to pricing. It depends on where you're at in the stage of the deal and what you're trying to figure out, right? But that's why you see this where it's like I can paste in text, I can create from a template, or I can import a file. There's plenty of things here you can do. In this case, since we had that level of effort Word doc, I'm going to generate or import from a file. Now this also, just so you know, so people, when you ask, you build your own templates here too, right? Like it's got, if I was using my Sparkhound one, which I'm not, I'm using this demo, it's already got my preloaded colors, it's got my preloaded images, what I like, what I don't like, all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to kind of show you what it does from a raw input with no kind of feedback, right? So you can tell all the different things I can load up. I can upload a PowerPoint and say, I just don't like the way that looks. So for those that have had the same PowerPoint deck like us for a long time, and I'm like, I want something new, you can upload it here and kind of mess with just altering your templates if you want to do that, right? Google Drives, all that kind of stuff. In this case, we're going to upload from a Word doc, which was this guy. All right, so I'm saying I want a presentation. As you can tell, my other options here. If you're somebody looking for a cool way to create a LinkedIn post, or you're someone looking for a good way to create just a document, one-page or handout, those kind of slicks, where most of us, if you've been in this a while, you usually are waiting on marketing to produce those, right? And those that are marketing here, I'm sorry. But that's usually the way it is. Like you get it, and you're like, man, this don't look that great, but all right, I'll go hand it out, With this, you can take that template and put your spin on it very quick, right? And so that gives you different options. And then you can do a stand-up web page where, if you got somewhere to host it, it'll build a page and you go put it out there and link to it. And it's pretty cool snapshot. Okay. So I'm doing a presentation. Then I click it. Yep. So it converted my Word document into all the text it needed right off the bat. Here with Gamma, again, it's just a little different. They don't call it, slides, it's cards. So they create it in cards. This is the only part within it you kind of be creative. Like, if I had a 10-page document, I probably want 10 cards so it can cover each one of those sections for me. Or if I know my formatting of, I have 8 sections in my proposals, I would want 8 cards to explain it. Or maybe, I could even type it like, use my content to create 8, but then I want to exit slide and talk about these things, right? So with that, again, I'm just telling it to use a base template that's in here, and I'm going to tell it to generate me 10 cards off of my, I think, 8-page LOE. And you'll actually see it start creating it. Usually, again, if you're on your office Wi-Fi, it's rolling. So as you can tell, it's taken that same Word doc, talking about the things that we've created and how we solution and how we propose our sales process, all those things, and breaking it down into a presentable format. It's got my phases broke out again. With this, the only thing, Gamma creates this in what it's like an HTML format, not to get too techie, but when you go to extract it, you can tell it, hey, export this to a PowerPoint because I want to do some alterations on it or whatever. You can actually present out of here. You see the present button up there. So if you're using a lot of images and stuff like that, sometimes you present out of here, it looks pretty good. And again, it's just your call. You can export it to a Word doc. You can export all that, but it's building it on the fly. So we should be about done. And the only thing else I want to show you here when it gets done.
Derrick, do you export it to PowerPoint or like the images and things with individual slides editable?
Yes. Yep. It'll pull those down. It's not as rounded off in the edges because when you're creating this, it's kind of like HTML, so it can do all kind of cool things that PowerPoint has some limitations. Sometimes I move it over and I can't tell a difference. But if I've gotten a little too, graphic-y and done a lot of too much, tweaking to try to, especially if I'm selling to like a marketing group that really likes a lot, so I use a lot of different things. I may go too far and it don't look good in PowerPoint. All right, so I could create something different, but I'm gonna go back to my prompt. Oh no, hold on. I didn't mean to do that. That's okay. Okay, it created it. All right, so what I wanted to show you here is it has this laid out and I've got my slides down the side. This is where you would just go through it and talk to it. It's just like a chat-based editor. I can go in here and say, edit with agent, try a different image. I don't like it. Or if your case, maybe you had your own image you wanted to put in there, you could do it.
And it's just all putting in royalty-free.
Yep, doing Gen AI, royalty-free stuff.
Any graphics, because I saw the graphic that it created, is that a unique graphic that it's creating based on specific content, or is it just pulling like a royalty-free graphic?
Yeah, I get both. Yeah, I've got both. I've got different reads on different research. From what I understand, it is Gen AI in most cases putting a spin on a free graphic that's out there. You'll see stuff watermarked if you don't tell it. Like you can set that in the settings, like, hey, I want all public images. That kind. If you're not using your own, images that are for your company, you can tell it like, don't use any, watermarked or any borrowed. I want it all to be public, and it does all that for you, right? And it's pretty cool because it'll look at what content you're presenting there if you do need an image filler, and it's going to use something that's relevant to that content on that page. Yes, ma'am.
But what if you put in your own actual picture and then ask them to put an extra spin on that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it can do it. Yeah. Yep. And if not, you can jump out into like, Copilot or Claude or ChatGPT and work that image up and put it back, those kind of things too. Yes. So your free version gives you only so many cards created a month. So if that's the only difference. Yep. You kind of get, and I can show you the packages here. I think I'm on their Pro. Zoomed in a little bit. Move for me. Oh well. All right. Why will it not move down? Anyway, it's like you've got a $12 one that's kind of a cheaper one, and it's just how much content you're creating. If you want to try, I highly recommend if you're thinking about it and this has got your interest, just do the free version a couple of days and see if it's something you really like. For me, it took me 2 times to realize I'll pay $25, because it was just so much time saved. And then now we have our whole team running it. Even my engineers, everybody has moved to this just because we did the math and, you think about hours in a day, it was just, I like to think I'm creative, but I spend 10 hours to be creative. I don't like that, versus this, happening quick. All right. We're doing pretty good on time, so again, ask questions if you have it. What I want to show you before I jump back over here is, all right, now in the sales cycle, right, I've got my my visual representation, my deck's done. I've done my level of effort, Word doc, whatever, Again, I would say think about whatever you're selling and figure out how you can twist those in. Pretty much all of the room that I've heard what your positions are, DM me. We probably created something very similar, and I'll help you out if this isn't something that's resonating with you. But now, the other powerful part is a salesperson that and we're pretty prideful. If you're in sales, you're kind of if you know DISC profiles, we're always usually pretty type D and very like independent, and we want to go, right? That, it's, I don't want to say you don't want an assistant, but a lot of times we're just like, leave me alone, let me go get this deal done. Like you just want to go. And for us, even all my sales guys, I have to teach them, because if you're in sales, you don't have an assistant. You don't, if you're an independent seller, a lot of time, you just get to offload a lot of work every day, right? It's kind of, you're doing that, you're self-genning, you're calling, you're meeting, you're doing those things. So always think of this as an assistant and get used to giving it responsibility, like feed it that information that you need and just learn to chat with it that way accordingly. So that's where I want to take to this next step that I'm going to show you. So let me find my mouse here. Again, I've created the content. I've done my presentation. I'm ready to kind of move to the next step as far as what I'm going to reach out to the client with. Now I want to be creative. I'm going back to my same chat. I'm not starting over or any of that kind of stuff, if I can find my mouse. And I want to do, I just closed it. Give me 1 second. I want to do a competitive discussion. I want to be competitive when I go to this conversation. I want you to take the notes I've got, and me and you have a conversation of how do I go win this job. And I seriously do that. It took me forever to get my team to do that. But because again, we're independent thinkers most of the time, but it's like having a step up, no matter what level of career you're in your sales realm. I still feel like this always gives you a challenging step up to have a conversation on, am I approaching this deal the right way? Even if it's a simplistic deal, just having a conversation, it never fails. I come away with some tidbit that I would have never thought about. Again, we learn from our mentors, we learn within our business, and typically that's kind of our four walls, right? That, you may have a couple people you talk to, you read some books, you listen to some podcasts, you do those things, but a lot of times that's the only information we got. I can't get real-time feedback. I can't call my mentors that I look up to every deal and say, hey man, I got this going on, what you think? And he's like, you split the commission with me, you can keep calling me, and I wouldn't blame him, but so that's what I really feel like when I first started using it, I was using it more for that than I was the creation of content, because I just kind of did some work and started understanding how I could talk to it. And I'm like, man, I wonder if this could give me some competitive feedback on what I created. And at that time, I was just feeding it our base documents and not doing this here. But all right. So in the competitive side of things, I'm going to go to it. And again, we haven't closed nothing out, right? And I'm going to say, I want you to think like a sales strategist. Okay? We're going to watch the prompt. Let's go, right? What angle are you thinking? Here's how to play close. It gives you some recommendations, that kind of stuff, right? Me, I have some prompts that I put together that I always feed it. And so, again, this would be something in your world you would want to play with to understand where where do you look at your last 5 closed deals that you did win? How did you do it? What was different? Feed that in here, right? Include that in there. But for this one, I'm going to tell it, and again, just keep from having to show y'all me typing slow. All right. I'll give that a minute up there. So based on everything we've discussed about this manufacturing deal, I need you to help me build a competitive win strategy. Accenture is my main competition, right? Give me our proposition, our positioning versus Accenture. What's our angle? How are we better? That kind of thing, right? Pricing strategy. I need our key differentiators highlighted and really help me emphasize how do we bring that out so that they understand that we're different, right? Risk to address, proactively. Recommended next steps, all that kind of stuff, right? I'm being specific. I'm going to hit enter here, and it's using the content we've already fed. It's not a new chat. The one thing I wanted to make sure you caught right there, my last statements here, don't give me generic advice. I want you to be specific, right? Talk to it like that, right? If you had an assistant, you wouldn't want them just talking generalities, or if you were looking to your boss for some feedback on help on winning, you'd want something specific back, right? Like, let's not talk about pie in the sky. Like, give me something good here. So it builds this out. And what's really cool is it takes you through the positioning side. How do I frame the conversation? What do I want to get out of that? Like, and then I'll scroll down a little bit here. We don't leave with the total price in this one. It's like, hey, show them the phased approach that we came up with. We think that's a better approach than the big dollar number at the end, because that's what they care about. They want to get to something fast. So it's really good, like, feedback that as I scroll down through here, I can, again, I can interact with any part of this, right? It even talks specifically to, if I'm wanting to frame it with Sarah and the notes we had on Sarah, this is, phase 1 gets you production system live before your fiscal year ends. With defined investment that fits your current budget authorization. You're not committing to the full program up front, you're buying proof first. And she made a comment in the notes where I talked about, that being an issue for her, the other proposal that she's seen, right? Was this like pie in the sky, very end thing, and she couldn't show nothing tangible within the first month or so. So this took that in consideration and gave me feedback on that. So, and that one was actually a note that the engineer entered that I didn't enter. So if I wouldn't have had this conversation, I probably would have missed that little key buying point of like having that discussion if I was talking to Sarah, right? Our key differentiators by stakeholder, again, it's mapping all those out. It knows our organization. Now, where it gets really strong as you start feeding it your company, like documentation and things in the background. Like if you build agents or any of that, like you can feed it as much information. You can tell it to go to my website, go do all these things, to go get all the information on my company, and then now come back and give it to me again with a different set of, and you could ask it as much as like, what do you know about my company, XYZ, and let it tell you. And it's like, no, you got this wrong, go look here, and now let's reposition because I think we need some clarity on these sections. Does this seem valuable? I mean, is anybody doing this today, like driving this kind of conversation in chat? Yeah, good. That's great. Because that to me is the power for it. I mean, creation, everybody's doing the Gen AI piece, right? Like creating documents, hey, proof my emails, help me with this, help me with that. That to me is great because it's a speed thing. It gets those mundane tasks done, so I'm quicker into the funnel. But this is where I get all amped up, right? Because now I'm brokering into the deal. Now I'm shaping, and now I'm figuring out who I've got to talk to and why do I need to talk to them. And so that, again, that's where I get amped up, and I really have a good conversation. And for me, I personally feel like it's changed my approach. And I really hadn't done this the last 4 or 5 months, and we can correlate it to our deals closed since I started this versus, what we were getting before that. Not going in, and especially a younger seller that's just come off the street, right, that's in our organization for the first time, where I would used to have these conversations, right, getting them understanding how to use prompts. They come to me with real questions that aren't like, oh, well, let's get on the whiteboard and let's talk about what you knew about Sarah and all those things that I would do, right? They come in and they're like, oh, no, I got what I'm going to ask Sarah, and I know what I'm, and I'm like, that's great, right? So a lot of organizational churn it cut down on too, but our win rate went way up. Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on, or the limitations around pulling information, like latest trends, news, buzzworthy topics, like those sort of influential, things going on that might influence this deal, whatever we are.
Yep.
Almost from, not from our side or the company side, but from the prospect side.
Yep.
I know there's some limitations in terms of what you can pull in from LinkedIn, for example, post sort of that level of current information. But do you have workarounds or thoughts on how to pull that in?
So on the first one we did last month, we talked a little bit about the research aspect of like deep research and stuff. So if I thought about it from a funnel perspective, usually I would start there, and I've done some research or whatever. But as we know, we're talking about like this all happens in a week, right? A lot of you that have sales cycles like me, this doesn't happen in 2 weeks, to your point. You may have had that first initial research 8 months ago. Well, say I'm selling to manufacturing and tariffs just went up. Well, that just changed everything than what I researched 8 months ago. So to your point, I always go back to that research and say, hey, this is we're doing this. Can you go out, research this industry, show me what's trending, what's changing, and do you feel like any of it's viable to my conversation? I like it kind of not going to LinkedIn, more industry pages or whatever, and it does pretty good. I'm still I can't tell you if I like one over the other. I kind of play with the models to try to see which one gives me the most information, unless you're doing it for a specific buyer and you need research on that individual, then most of the time it's something, like that. If they do any kind of videos or anything, your buyers, for those that were here last week, a lot of times it's good to go find those videos on YouTube or something. If they're talking, say you're selling to a CEO or something, they talk a lot and they're, if they're public, they're out there, giving their trade speech, whatever, pull those down, use the transcript out of that and put it into the model, and you can.
You have to do it that way. You can't just prompt it to find those videos.
Yeah. I haven't found nothing good. Some of them have the transcripts embedded in the page, and so if it finds that, it'll do it. It's the ones that it's like just a YouTube video, and it doesn't, it's got to go find it within there. I feel like it's getting stronger and stronger because everybody keeps, needing that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that in the coming days. But yes, sir.
I found coworker, Gemini, MC.
Yep. So we'll get. Yep. And that's a good segue. I'll give you that $5 for bringing that up later. I'm just kidding. So again, we talked about this. We did the proposal. We did, so just to kind of see what happens, and I want to talk about co-work real quick because, we got 15 minutes. We're doing okay. But I know you got to get back to making money. All right. So we organized meeting notes. If you think about this and break down and how we did it in our company, I broke it down into my process of what this took, right? And say I've got 10 people doing this activity, you can quickly tell organizational churn of what this changed from a 5 and 8 hour process to 40 minutes per deal. It's a big, it's very impacting. And so for those that are looking for investment from your company, they haven't really given it to you yet to do down this path, these are your selling points to your internal business on why you need to be investing in this thing as a sales team. Because your competitors are, and if they're not, this is your chance to launch them, to go past them. And if you're behind, then this is your chance to catch up, right? And so it's time is of the essence. Nobody's patient anymore. All those kind of things you can sell uphill. And as a seller, I would anticipate you ought to be able to sell to your C-suite pretty good. But so anyway, that's kind of what we did there. So what we try to do in these two is just give some new information on products that are, kind of out there and people are playing with, that kind of stuff. Has anybody heard of the Claude Code? Yeah? Anybody using it actively? Yeah. If you're on Windows, it's still a little flaky, but if you're on Mac, it's pretty good. But it's truly like, if you're used to all the other models, it's kind of this, hey, I prompt, you respond, right? I prompt, you respond. We're having a conversation like you just saw me do with Claude. Or ChatGPT. It's like that's what you're doing. I'm asking you something, you're giving me information back. We're just two-way conversation. Codework's kind of taken that to a different level in that it can be somewhat autonomous in doing these activities, right? I can give it some task and let it go do its thing and go, like you're talking about for LinkedIn and that kind of stuff. It sounds like you figured out some ways to use Codework to help dive through LinkedIn. And so, it's just kind of it's not like you hear with call bots and all that stuff, but it's a step in that same direction where it's somewhat autonomous once you give it a direction. So it's worth playing with. I welcome y'all's feedback in the next when I'm going to show this in a minute. If there's deeper dive tech stuff you want to do there, please give in the notes and we'll take that into consideration because again, we know the room are in different levels of where they're at on this journey with AI. So we don't want to jump too far into technology and lose everybody. And I'm still learning myself, right? Because it changes every day when you think you got to figure it out. But I would love that feedback in there. So, but just know that's coming. Do your research on it.
What timeline are you hearing about?
Well, it's out now. Yeah. The biggest problem they've got is everybody's like if you're on company devices and their Windows, certain things are blocked, and so it's having an issue because it interacts with your machine. That's how it's so efficient. versus these other models are like out, you're putting the information out. This one's kind of sitting and interacting with your local machine. That's how it's able to be so strong and do calendar stuff, do this, do that, kind of our next step assistant, right? The other one that was covered in the general meeting yesterday that you'll hear some more about is this fully autonomous bots that are it started as Claude bot and then now it's Claw bot. Anybody read anything or saw anything on that? That one's kind of a little scary for me, right? It's fully autonomous that you set it up on its own machine and it's truly an assistant where I can text it and say, schedule my 2 p.m. with Derrick, Friday, cover my lunch, all that. But how do you think it does that? You got to give it permission, right? And that's a scary thing because I don't know if y'all read the headlines. Like one person at Google, she was so excited, got it on there and said organize her mailbox. Come back next day, it deleted all of it and said, well, that's a good way to organize it. So yeah, you get to start from scratch, So but you will see these others like Claude and Microsoft, and everybody's going to be chasing that because they see the power in this autonomous agent that you can really, like this one, you can SMS text into it once you set it up and give it directions, or it emails you back and forth like it's a person, and most of them are, they give them a name and all that kind of stuff. It's coming. So I would just say, I don't know that it changes our profession that much as a salesperson, but I mean, for an extra assistant, that's good. I'd say start slow, learn the things we did today, maybe jump into co-work, and then you're kind of getting ready for when that autonomous stuff comes out. What I like about it is, like, especially if you're doing building materials, you're doing quoting and estimate fast turns, you can feed it spreadsheets, and it's feeding it back by matching your SKU numbers, matching this, matching that. That it's very powerful in that realm. Okay. Questions outside of what we covered? Or yes, sir.
This is a personal question. You said you don't want to look at your credit card bill. What do you think is the right, in your space at least, per head, per sales, right?
Yeah.
What's a no-brainer to go to finance for? I mean, when we think about, if you got the max plan for Claude, if you got the max plan for, by the time you're done, you could be $3,000-$4,000.
Yep.
But an always-on sales and marketing assistant, and you're, working for you.
Yep.
What, in your opinion, what do you think is that no-brainer right now for high-ticket sellers that are out there doing big deals? I mean,
Right.
Is that $400 or $500 a month?
That's what I put it at. I tell my guys, like, hey, you show me the value or whatever, I'm good with you expensing $500 a month. Because again, we showed it quickly and deals closed. I'm like, yeah, spend $1,000, whatever, because things are happening. So I would say, again, justification around like showing them those timelines and process tasks and, hey, how I'm getting deals closed, I'm doing that. You're not adding another seller. I'm asking for $500 a month, Yeah.
Quick follow-up. Do you think that this changes the human in the loop as a sales assistant to support sellers? So, for example, if you're a field seller, let's say, you're on the road, you're driving in between, you don't have as much time to even do 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Do you still see a human in the loop that's doing this for a sales team as a model potentially, or do you see this eradicating that sales assistant?
Right now, I don't feel like it's there. I mean, I think it depends on industry. So I have one group that's in manufacturing that we're looking at that because they're kind of going the Amazon direction around. They're still a B2B seller, so they're selling a business. Ain't like they're selling to an end user. But they're starting very slow and controlled. And what I mean by that is it wouldn't be a wholesale thing. Could you offload 40 or 50% of those cycles? Probably, because it would be like, hey, if it's this, we have this product. I know we always carry this. You write that in the thresholds. I'm good with you producing that quote, spitting it out. Always put 20 points on it. I'm good. And you write those kind of things. I think that's where it's going to. I just, again, at any company, most people have approval levels too, right? Once it gets to a certain dollar amount, we're going to put 3 sets of eyes on it, but I do think there's those edge cases where there's, low risk sales, those kind of customers that, hey, they're good, they're steady, but they're not our big, whatever. But yeah, so hopefully that answers it. Yes, sir.
It's kind of follow up to his first question about the cost of like AI tools on a monthly basis. What else is in your go-to like toolbox? I mean, obviously we talked
Yep.
Gamma, like what else, is there anything that just comes to the top of your mind of, I'm using that? This also is part of my just
Yeah.
day-to-day
Yeah.
bullseyes tool.
Right now, I really am that I'm on the Gamma train. You know, I've looked at others, but I'm just comfortable with it. So that was the early adopter. So I use that constantly. And then I do have ChatGPT, deep research stuff. I like that. And then I do use Claude. And, you know, we have our Microsoft tenant that we use that in. But that's it. That's all I subscribe to. You know, I think they're fit purpose depending on your industry where you see some people coming out there. My hesitation for you to do that is everybody's, the old saying of lipstick on a pig or whatever. They're just taking something, giving you a GUI that is pushing at these models that I'm showing you today. And they're going to charge you, you know, $30, $40 a user. And so my advice would be as you look to those tools, look to see what they do and see if you can't go over here and prompt it to do the same thing before you add another subscription of something that really these models have gotten so strong now, they handle it, you know. So that, yeah, hopefully that helps. That's just me. And in our realm, that's what we do. I mean, our coders and all, they're, you know, they think Claude Code, you know, was the best thing since sliced bread or whatever. Yeah. Yes.
Just a curiosity question, in your experience, since you do this by the seat when you're paying for the extra tools, is there any way just to skip a step? So, for example, me and her were in a support role. But we have salespeople call us and they're on the road and they say, hey, we really need you to look at this, pull this up. Is there any way when they're building out these templates that they can say, hey, can you share this to this person who also has a seat? And then that way they don't have to save it, send it to us, you can just pull it out of there?
Yep. So most of the enterprise license kits, like with Claude with us, we tie that into our Microsoft ecosystem so that, like, for us, we use Teams and SharePoint. You may use something else, but we're integrated in that with our Claude setup through our enterprise license agreement, which is, you know, it gives you like $5 off a user, but you got to license everybody. So you have to kind of weigh the options, but it does make it a lot easier where it's spitting something out to a team somewhere that my other team's using that file to point to. And we're just, to your point, when I need something from my engineer, I'm not pulling it down, putting an email it, then putting it in their model. And, you know, so yes, but most of them have that. It's just, again, the adoption rate of where you go with your company. You know, I do those all the time. And if you need justification decks, hit me up. I'll send you one. But because again, in sales particularly, it's growing at a rapid pace. Again, my only hesitation would be the ones that are coming in trying to sell you like, we do this just for your line of work and we're really good at it. And you ought to pay us this add-on. When again, they're just grounded to Claude or somebody like that. You know, so just be careful with that.
That's like the thing, the big push right now kind of behind the scenes is really tying into both your questions. Like a lot of those micro SaaS companies that are all just doing it by the seat, by the service. Like if you spend about a weekend in Claude Code, like after you've sat down with someone who knows how to do it and set it up for you, like you can just build so many like local hosted web apps on your computer or on your company's like AWS or whatever your cloud platform is that you can honestly get rid of like 90% of these things.
Yep.
So it's awesome. Yep. Like we built so many things in-house at our company that we just run on our AWS. And it costs pennies on the dollar for us to do all these operations and everything that we used to pay $200-$300 a month in SaaS for.
Yep. Just because we're on time, try this week. You know, some of the stuff you worked or you saw, if you like it, try it. Again, if you're limited to one tool, go try that. I think it's just more of talking through it. The deck will be sent to you. That'll come to you. The recording, we're doing it on Teams so that we can also show you what was on screen versus what he's got. So all that'll come out. The next session, it's funny you brought that up, is the scaling AI across the team. We think that's where we want to go, but we need your feedback because we want this to be productive for the community. So I need everybody in this room, like this one, we kind of came up when we got the feedback last time. It was like, y'all did great, you did, but no, like, hey, we need help with this. We'd like to see this. So we'll put it together if we can get the feedback from everybody on what you're looking to. So please, hit the MPS, rate it. I would give me a 12, but that's up to y'all. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But seriously, give us the feedback. If it was too technical, it lost you, or hey, I want to see more technology. Whatever it is, We can't help the community if we don't get that feedback. We just, as sellers, like, oh, we killed it then. We don't need to change nothing. So make sure, everybody got that, scanned it. You'll also, I think that comes in their email too, right?
Yeah.
The feedback email, yeah. Again, thanks to our sponsors and everything. We'll be around here, a few more minutes if you got any questions. Thank you for your time. Go sell something, right? Yeah, go get some revenue, right? Thank you.
And if you want to cross over to the dark side next week at marketing, we're actually teaching co-work.
Yeah.
So we're going to show you really how to set it up and build the whole thing out in about 15 minutes for your company.